Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Thrive Tribe table and this COVID-19 special homeschool edition. Now, for this, you're just going to get me because really I was the homeschooler. But I want to talk to you parents who are just beginning homeschooling this year, or maybe you're beginning to homeschool because of kind of the educational uncertainty. You know, our whole nation right now is just unsure of what's coming next because of the coronavirus. But I don't think that shows up anywhere more starkly than in how parents are feeling about their children's education. And the numbers of people applying to homeschool or in our state entering letters of intent to homeschool is really just skyrocketing. But along with that comes just a certain level of anxiety of the unknown. It's a little different for the people who their whole life have planned to homeschool than someone who feels like perhaps they're being forced into homeschooling. And so I kind of just want to talk to you today, take some of the weight of that decision off your shoulders. You know, it's interesting. One of the things that is part of going to school for our children is learning how to do school. But for homeschooling, it's not that so much as it's developing a lifelong love of learning. You don't have to learn how to do school because you're not in a school setting. And so for those of you who remember from March to May of last year and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that was really difficult and I don't know if I can do it, I want to tell you that homeschooling this year is not going to look like that. If you try to bring a public school setting into your home, you're just going to produce more anxiety for yourself and honestly pushback from your kids. Those children who have been used to a public school or a private school setting who now are home, if you try to replicate what they did there, they're going to be disappointed and you're going to be anxious. So there really is a better way to bring them into our home. And so let me start by saying this. This is a new paradigm. It's a new paradigm for you. It's a new paradigm for your children. They're very used to what they did in the public or private school sector. They're not used to what's going on at home. And so everyone in the family needs to really offer one another grace. We need to be patient with one another. Anytime you introduce something new, especially into a family setting, there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way, right? There's going to be some hiccups, some things we try and then we discard. And so please be easy on yourself. Be easy on your children emotionally as they get used to this new routine. You know, it's understandable that we would have educational anxiety with our kids and that they would have it. And moms and dads, it probably affects us a little differently. We're looking at the future for our children and thinking, you know, are they going to get everything they need to get to college? What if I can't teach what they need 5 years from now? It's okay. Just focus on 1 year at a time. I'm going to encourage you just to focus on what you have right in front of you now, which is the decision to homeschool for this year. Now, for your kids, the anxiety is a little different. I think for kids, maybe it's a little bit more of a socialization anxiety. You know, am I ever going to see any other children besides my brothers and sisters? When is this going to end? When am I going to be able to be in sports again? And we need to discuss those things with our kids. We need to make it an open conversation that we come back to over and over again, because underlying anxiety in your homeschool will just make things more difficult for everyone. Now, I want to introduce you to a simple little word that's going to help you this year as you begin this new adventure, really, of homeschooling your kids. And it's the word LEAP. And we're going to spell it out, L-E-A-P, and it stands for this. One of the most beautiful things about homeschooling is that it gives us an opportunity throughout the day, whether we're technically doing our schoolwork or doing chores as a family or sitting around as a family or masking up and going out as a family, to learn practical life skills. Because really that's what education is about. I don't want my children to go to school just to learn how to go to school, right? I want them to go to school to learn how to function as a successful adult once they're out of the school system. Now, I homeschooled for 23 years, but I also had a child who went into the private school system. I have grandchildren who are in private school and public school. And so this really applies to all of us. But for a homeschooler, for this year, as you bring your kids home, you have an opportunity to really focus in on those life skills. Life skills like learning to cook, life skills like learning to organize. Why do we clean up after ourselves? How do we get along with siblings? All of those things that will go with them, whether they're a biologist, a nurse, a teacher, a stay-at-home mom, a pastor, whatever it is, they need the life skills to be able to function. And you have an opportunity this year to integrate those life skills into everything you teach. Secondly is this, your kids are going to experience education in a new way. It's not going to be what they're used to with everybody lines up and goes to the lunchroom together, or we start when the bell sounds, or any of that. You don't need to bring that classroom into your home, but they need to learn to experience education in a new way, whether it's sitting with mom on the couch, reading a book, doing their science experiment in the kitchen instead of in a lab. They're going to experience education in a new way. And as they're academic cheerleaders, really, we need to be able to say to them over and over, this is different, but different isn't bad. Different isn't bad. Because remember, for many years, for some of you, your children have been going down one path and now you're heading down another. The third is this, it's the letter A, and the whole family needs to adapt to a new environment. Moms and dads, there's going to be more mess. There just is. When kids are home all day, there's more mess in the house, and we're going to have to adapt to that. We're going to have to adapt to our mornings being very busy as we get started with school. And I know for myself, when my oldest son went to private school and he would leave in the morning, I very quietly sat with my cup of coffee and enjoyed the day. That's not going to be there so much anymore, right? Our kids are going to be there, and we're going to have to start their day. And then finally is P. What a wonderful opportunity you have this year to pursue family relationships. You know, one of the things that I realized when our youngest went away to school was that I didn't have the same amount of time to invest in my relationship with him. One of the beautiful things we saw in homeschooling was that as strife arose between children, there was time to deal with it. You know, when we're busy running to sports activities and picking up tired children after school and doing homework with them, there just isn't that time to pour into family relationships. And learning how to be in healthy relationships is one of the most important life skills that we can give to our children. So now you're heading into this new homeschool adventure. What does it look like? What should you be teaching? You know, what is available for your kids to learn? So for you moms who have small children, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I would say all the way up to third or fourth grade, I really want to encourage you to just focus on three things: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And, you know, our grandparents would have said that, but truly that is the foundation for everything else they're going to learn. So read to your children. Read all day. You know, okay, we just finished this. Let's sit down and read a book. Let's read a series of books. Read over and over. You read to them, have them read out loud to you. Stretch their imaginations with reading. You know, it's easy to pull out the same books over and over, but find some books that stretch their world for them, help them have a little bit bigger worldview. Read, 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 read. The second is writing, and it's important for our children to learn how to write. And so find a good writing curriculum for them to use. For those of you with kindergartners, I love Ready Writer, and you can find it on Amazon.com. But have them learn to write. Have them write letters. Write letters to the grandparents. Some of your kids can't visit their grandparents like they used to because of COVID. Have them write to them. Have them write thank you letters. Have them write stories. You know, during the writing isn't necessarily the time to be correcting their spelling and their punctuation. Let them write freely. But have them learn to write. And then finally get a good math curriculum and lay those foundations of math. But what about all the other subjects? History, science, creationism, all those things. Well, as you walk about your day with your children, begin to teach those things. Some of your reading can be history. I loved reading biographies to my children and autobiographies to my children. Do science in the kitchen as they learn to cook with you. And that puts practical math into play too, as they're learning that half a cup, 2 half cups make a whole cup, and what if it's 2/3 cup and 2/3 cup if you're doubling a recipe? What does that come out to? Practical math. But for those younger grades, the goal foremost for me, was that they would learn to love to learn. right? We want our children to think that learning is a wonderful thing. And so as we gently do the reading and the writing and the arithmetic and weave everything else into it, they're going to get hungry to learn more. Now, what about those of you who have older kids? Well, again, if they've been used to, I sit in math class and then I sit in English class and then I sit in, science class, and that's not happening at home, they're going to begin to feel anxious. They're going to be agitated. Things aren't going the way they used to. It's important to remind them that we're learning a new paradigm at home. And I think one of the best ways to do that, along with serious math, right, doing serious math and having a reading curriculum, is to bring in what some people call unit studies, but what I always call delight-led learning. Let me say that again, delight-led learning. Delight-led learning means that you integrate everything in your school day into what your children are excited about at that time. Now, they're children, and so their excitement levels don't last for years and years usually, although if it's a little girl and horses, they probably will. But we can find resources. It's so easy now, especially with the internet, to find resources to use to build around the things that bring excitement into our children's lives. And as we do that, along with those other foundational lessons they have to do in math and in reading, they will be excited about learning. Let me show you an illustration to show you what I'm talking about. Delight-led learning looks like this. You pick a topic that a child is interested in, and it's almost like the hub of a wheel and spokes. And so as you think about that main topic, you're going to think about the spokes that would come off of the topic. For example, off almost every topic, there's history, there's science, there's arts, there's home economics sometimes, there's social studies, there's literature. And so really, moms and dads, it's us brainstorming, okay, my child is interested in this. What are the spokes of the wheel of what they could learn? Let me show you another graphic that really puts this into action. Now I'm going to put on my favorite apparel for this one, but as y'all know, I love baseball. And so you could do a delight-led study about baseball. And as you look at the screen, you'll see the topic is baseball, but there's so much that we can learn off of that topic that will build excitement for learning in the life of our child. So let's start with history. How did baseball begin? How did the sport begin? Now, in Britain, they had cricket all along, but cricket and baseball are very different. And so how did the sport begin? There's so many historical characters we can learn about from baseball. There's Babe Ruth, and there's Joe DiMaggio, who married Marilyn Monroe, right? And there's all kinds of historical figures that are a part of baseball. Now, interestingly, from the history leads us straight to social studies, because Jackie Robinson was a famous baseball player. Jackie Robinson was really the first man to break apart what was called the Negro Baseball League and the White Baseball League. And he built a bridge between the two. And doesn't that fit into exactly what's happening in our culture today? So as we begin to teach through the life of Jackie Robinson and the courage it took for him to go and be the only colored player on a white baseball team, and what happened to him with the people who were jeering and taunting him. Maybe we'll get out the movie 42 and watch it with our kids. You see, we're tying it all into their learning. Now, how about literature? Well, there are so many books written about baseball. There's a writer named Mike Lupica. You can write that down. He writes all kinds of sports books. He writes about baseball. The Promise was a book about baseball. Well, there's another, The Promise, but you want the one about baseball. The book 42, there's a biography of Jackie Robinson. Lots of literature we can read. So then we're going to move into home economics. What does home economics look like with baseball? Well, what do you eat at a baseball game? Call baseball night and have everyone come and help make hot dogs and fill bags with peanuts. And for us, we're Boston Red Sox fans, so maybe you want to get little cups of Fenway fudge. And there's fun to do in learning about baseball. And then one final area, arts and crafts. Have your kids design their own team logo for their baseball team. So do you see how it all ties in together? Oh, you know what? I missed one of the biggest ones. What about science? Is there science in baseball? We know there's no crying in baseball, but is there science in baseball? For sure. You can learn about velocity. You can learn about what does a knuckleball do and why do pitchers throw a fastball and why did they choose wooden bats over metal bats? And there's so much to learn about the science behind baseball. If you have a baseball-loving boy or girl, they're going to love to put all of their learning through this filter of delight-led learning. The big thing to remember is this. You're not bringing the public school home. And if the anxiety is high because of how March to May went last year, take a deep breath. Offer grace to one another. Recognize that this is not just school at home, but it's an opportunity for your kids to begin to love learning, to be lifelong learners who love learning. You're going to leap together, learn life skills, experience education in a new way that is delightful to your kids, adapt to a new environment of everyone being home together, new routines, new structure, new schedules, and pursue family relationships. This year of homeschooling as a new homeschooler can be one of the best years your family has ever had. COVID doesn't need to ruin our lives. It's actually giving us some great opportunities. We have resources to help you at our store. A book simply about homeschooling called The A to Z of Character Healthy Homeschooling, Toddler Toolbox for those of you with little ones who are wondering, what in the world do I do with the 2-year-old while I try and teach the 10-year-old? We're here to help you, but I'm here to tell you this year can be your best year. I'm Megan Scheibner. Thank you for joining me for this special COVID-19 homeschool edition.
Well, thanks for watching that clip on YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our weekly content. See you soon.